There are many ways to define justice. Courts of law, paybacks, maybe something happened that wasn't quite right, quite fair. But the justice I want to talk about today, it comes from inside. It's actually a virtue. How we treat others, how we interact with them, perhaps even how we approach teaching and learning. Are we doing justice? Let's talk about it next.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast. This is a unique story and place where we get to celebrate those who work in all genres of education. We're so grateful for what you do because educators, they change lives. They do it in ways sometimes that are intentional and sometimes that you don't know. You don't know whose life that you're touching, that you're influencing, that your words are having an impact. And that's the powerful responsibility that educators have. And that's why we do what we do here is to give a little bit of encouragement, perspective, and maybe that extra little push that says, come on, you got this. You get to go out there and is it hard work? You bet it is. And does it require a level of discipline and preparation and follow up and follow through? Yeah, it does. But it's a beautiful thing to be able to pour into these people and to give them a hope forward and a way to maybe accomplish their dreams, even to know what their dreams are. Right? I mean, that's a great responsibility and privilege that we have in this work. And so we're just so grateful for you being a part of this community of educators who, again, at all different roles, different levels, different types of schools and educational organizations. It doesn't matter. We just want to be a part of your life and give you a little bit of that message that hopefully gives that encouragement for you to stay the course. Part of our responsibility, of course, in education is an element of virtue, because when you having a person who is highly educated is wonderful. But it's not enough, right? It's not enough. There's something more, and one of those is understanding virtues. We previously talked about that the virtue of being able to make wise decisions and so now we're moving into the virtue of justice, right? Justice being, one of the four cardinal virtues. It's closely related to the practice of charity because it regulates relationships with other people, right? In the Bible, the just man is often mentioned, and this person is distinguished by habitual right thinking. They're thinking about things that are the right things. And it's really easy for us to be distracted and sometimes even destructive in our thoughts. I was watching Michael Phelps in an interview for the Olympics in the last few weeks. I've been really enjoyed watching the different competitions and seeing the stories. And it's been a fascinating couple of weeks. But he shared that, part of the pressure of being able to perform, to win, it's so easy for your mind to go down that dark path of criticism and negative thinking and undermining ourselves, right? And so one of the things that he talked about is that he would play a game with himself, that every time he walked through a doorway, he would think a positive thought. He would think something that would be encouraging for himself, or to remind him, hey, you got this. Come on, let's go. Encouraging that belief, right? And so that right thinking, which is not only thinking about what we're capable of, but also of reminding ourselves of why we're here. Our bigger purpose, our relationship even with our Creator, right? That's part of that habitual right thinking, as well as an uprightness in our conduct, right? And our conduct towards especially our neighbor. the person not only next door, but the person next to us, the person that we work with, the person that maybe we teach next to, or office next to, or our neighbor, right? And that's a key part, because the function of education, as Martin Luther King Jr. once said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that's the goal. That's the goal of true education, right? That's the goal, because it can't be just about knowledge, because knowledge without character, without virtue, it doesn't work. It has no meaning. It's able to actually cause significant damage even. Living the good life, right? Living the good life depends on what we mean by good, right? And which, and not only what we mean by, but how do we get there? How do we achieve the good life? Well, that's why the incorporation of these foundational virtues into our curriculum, as well as into our professional development, is so vital. Virtues, of course, they guide us. They guide us in becoming the good people that we're capable of, because we also know we're capable of doing some not so good things as well, right? So the virtues keep us on point. They keep us on purpose, right? The virtue of justice, it directs our relationships with others. It enables us to see beyond what benefits us, right? What's good for me. Instead, it says, hey, I'm also in relationship with this whole community, right? So it's not just what benefits us individually, but we also consider the good of the whole. And that's a vital part for the most effective educators and to maximize our influence. Justice is a continuous journey to higher levels of character and of righteousness, right? It requires that all persons, right? All persons are left to the free enjoyment of all of their rights. The rights which belong to every human being, they are absolute and they're inalienable. To educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society, said Theodore Roosevelt. To educate somebody where they have a very high level of knowledge, but they lack the moral capacity to know how to make decisions, to know how to do the right thing, man, that's dangerous, right? So we are inherently given a sense of moral law in our conscience. We have a conscience, of course, and we know that that inclination, that those things that prick our heart, that they should be rightly obeyed. We should listen to our conscience. Remember Pinocchio? He had Jiminy Cricket who would sit on his shoulder and tell him what to do. And we don't have that, but we know we have a conscience. We know we have something inside us that says, hey, this is the right thing and this isn't, right? And so pursuing justice, it's a pathway for us and our fellow human beings to experience the best of life, because it is one of the greatest expressions of love, right? The relationship that we have with people. Integrity is lost. Hear me. Integrity is lost when agreement on matters of religion, politics, or other contentious topics is a prerequisite for us to defend others who are suffering because of injustice. We actually lose our integrity. It evaporates in the heat of the moment when agreement is required on those very sensitive matters. If we have to have agreement with people before we're willing to serve them as our neighbor, we have already lost. Right? This idea of justice is critical for us in our personal growth and in our professional development. Justice requires courage. It requires a humility to stand up when everybody around you is pulling you back down, to stand up and say, wait a minute, hang on. There's something more important here. This is not right. The call for justice is one that we participate with. But let justice roll on like a river, says Amos 5:24. Righteousness like a never-ending stream. Let it roll, right? Let it roll. Let it be a part of it. Let it have a momentum. Let it have a flow in our lives. We need a justice. We need to be participating in the virtue of justice. You see, justice guides us. It guides us to tell the truth, to keep our promises, to follow through on commitments, and to commit ourselves to doing what is right on behalf of others. It builds our character. Right? So as we move through this next season of school life in the school year, remember that some may reason that virtue emerges from education itself, but it isn't hard to find very highly educated people who have reasoned their way into unvirtuous behaviors. Right? They figured out how to use reason to behave in a very unjust way. So lasting virtues, they're a mindset. They're a mindset that come with habits that most often emerge as we cultivate an intentional relationship with our Creator. Because in Him is the root and source of truth and justice. Right? When we have that connection, when we're plugged into, as Jesus said, the vine. We're plugged into the source, and that gives us the ability to stay true to our calling, to stay true to our calling to do justice. So may your heart stay attuned to justice, my friend, letting your eyes see what is really happening around you so that your hands and feet are activated. They're activated in our calling to be just. Justice is giving our neighbor what they are owed. Justice is critical because it governs how we relate to both our Creator and our neighbor. Hey, thank you for your commitment to this walk of being an educator. And we hope that the Educators Among Us podcast provides a thread of joy and maybe some meaning to your role and to what you're doing there, and hopefully you're able to carry this into your classroom and maybe even to share with your colleagues as a part of professional development or just some other tools. We've gotten some great messages back from listeners, and had a chance to be at a leadership retreat this week up in or down in Tampa, Florida, and had a person there just shared a story as a teacher who said, "Man, I love getting your weekly encouragement messages, and especially that little question there at the bottom that says it kind of challenges me. I actually keep those in my notebook, and your podcast just serve as just a great spark for me. So thank you." And I was so honored just to receive that message, and as a part of that conversation, of course, I said, "Hey, could you share that with everybody here in the room?" So it was a great conversation. But that's the privilege of our work, is to be able to visit with educators, to minister to them, to encourage them, and really challenge them in their walk to be our best. Hey, as you're going through this week, a coaching question to consider: did I do my best to do justice today? Did I do my best, my absolute best, to do justice today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.